President Trump got some good news Tuesday from Democrats. Mr. Trump's pick to lead the CIA, Gina Haspel, secured crucial Democratic votes in her ongoing confirmation campaign. Senators Mark Warner and Heidi Heitkamp said they would support Haspel's nomination after she said the agency's so-called enhanced interrogation techniques did damage to the CIA's officers and its standing. Zeke Miller is a CBSN political contributor and White House correspondent for the Associated Press. He joins me now from Washington. All right, so Zeke, from the White House's perspective, how much of a relief is this new support for Gina Haspel?
It's really hard to overstate just how relieved they are, certainly coming after the failed nomination of Ronnie Jackson at the VA just a few weeks ago. Certainly, this is one that had worried the White House. They hadn't had a lot of time to focus on it leading into the Mike Pompeo confirmation as Secretary of State, which is sort of the other big confirmation battle of the last couple of months after the White sort of the administration shakeup back in March. So they sort of the way they had sequenced things was Pompeo was their sole focus. Ronnie Jackson sort of bubbled up out of nowhere with the allegations against him, and he had to pull out. Haspel was sort of one they didn't really have time to deal with until about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and they are very relieved that this now seems to be very quickly coming to a conclusion in their favor.
Well, President Trump met with Senate Republicans Tuesday afternoon. Senator John Barrasso called the meeting productive. Do we know what came up in it?
We know what didn't come up, first of all, which is that White House aide's crass remark about John McCain. That's something that there was some speculation that some lawmaker might bring up that did not come up. We know they did discuss certainly a lot of foreign policy issues around the Iran deal, whether or not the president, just how he would reimpose sanctions back on Iran. We also knew that there's a lot of discussion of North Korea and the president's upcoming summit with Kim Jong-un coming up on June 12th.
Well, one thing that didn't come up as well in that meeting is ZTE. It is a Chinese company that's been cited for national security concerns. President Trump promised to help the company in a tweet over the weekend. Is the White House facing much pressure to walk back that support?
Certainly, we've heard that from senators like Marco Rubio from Florida, who's been outspoken critic of ZTE, not just because of trade issues in China, sort of unfair trade practices in some cases, but also over concerns that these large Chinese technology companies would pose national security threats here at home. So the president's certainly under pressure there to walk some of that back, and it's unclear just how he has, how far he will go in that direction. He does seem to be looking to offer some sort of olive branch to the Chinese government to try to de-escalate this trade war. But even inside the White House, the reason why he chose this one thing to offer is sort of head spinning and puzzling to a lot of people. They don't really think he'll follow through there. There's some legal issues in terms of how much the president can involve himself in those questions anyway. So it's really kind of a head spinning intervention tweet by the president earlier this week that probably won't amount to much. And certainly this pressure is sort of bringing him back onto the reservation, so to speak.
Well, you mentioned North Korea a moment ago. North Korea is threatening to call off that summit with President Trump next month over combined South Korean and U.S. Air Force drills. How is the White House responding to this?
The White House is basically saying if we haven't heard it from the North Koreans, we're going to pretend it didn't happen. Sarah Sanders put out a statement this afternoon that basically said, we're going off with what the North Koreans are telling us, not what they are telling, the South Koreans are telling the press. And they seem to be saying that, from their standpoint, it's full steam ahead. They're going forward with planning for Singapore on June 12th. Whether or not that will actually be the case, whether or not there's any bearing of this cancellation on the ultimate talks. It's really too soon to tell there. But one other interesting component is by having this meeting not in Korea, not at the DMZ, not in Pyongyang, not in Seoul, but doing it in Singapore, it has been an effort by the White House to decouple the issue of the North Korean nuclear question from the issue of inter-Korean rapprochement. So the fact that the North and the South aren't having this meeting from the White House's perspective doesn't matter so much, particularly if they're trying to keep the focus on specifically the nuclear question next month when they meet.
Right, a lot to watch. Zeke Miller in Washington for us. Zeke, thank you.
Thank you for having me.